And that brings us to the main event here for UFC Canada. We've got Gilbert Burns taking on Mike Malott. And if you're enjoying the content, hit that like and subscribe button, as I'm going to go with Gilbert Burns in this one. 170 Gilbert Burns is a problem. Have we all forgotten about him versus Khamzat Chimaev in that previous fight at 170? He was able to get the victory as well against Neil Magny. We'll talk about that one in a moment. But I've not overly been impressed with Mike Malott. He is a decent fighter. He is athletic. He does have good jiu-jitsu and decent wrestling, but let's not pretend like his level of competition is the same at Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns, obviously 40 years old now. He is getting up there in age, and he cannot take a punch like he used to at 155. But I think at 170, he can really, take a good shot. And I think Mike Malott here on the feet doesn't pose the same threat as some of the people that he's been fighting at 155, especially when it comes to the power and the grappling. Let's talk about it. Michael Morales, first round knockout. That guy's about to fight for a title soon. He has great power, just knocked out Sean Brady. Sean Brady, great grappler in his own right. Probably a little bit better in terms of the wrestling and the pedigree on the ground than Gilbert Burns. Jack Della Maddalena was able to knock him out. But it's to remember in that fight, Gilbert Burns was able to take down Jack Della Maddalena multiple times and was on his way to unanimous decision victory until he got knocked out by that knee. And Bilal Muhammad as well, obviously the former champion. He's been losing to the best of the best. Here at 170, I think that his chin holds up better. I think his gas tank's better. And let's face it, Mike Malott hasn't really proven a whole lot. He's been able to beat Kevin Holland. Go back and look at that fight. Kevin dropped him early in round one. Mike instantly went to the wrestling. Burns is probably the better jiu-jitsu practitioner in this one, and I think he can defend the takedowns here against Mike Malott if he does panic shoot. I think it's just going to depend on what Gilbert Burns shows up. If we get the 170 Gilbert Burns that we saw in the past against Khamzat Chimaev, the Neil Magny fight, I think he can definitely make this one competitive here as a huge underdog. Mike Malott, obviously, he's fighting the lower-end guys. He is a good athlete with good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But even if you go and look at those fights where he's had success against the lower-level guys here at 170, Kevin Holland, for example, he didn't necessarily make it look easy. And I think if you really look at Gilbert Burns' overall skill set, he's been losing to the best guys. He has good jiu-jitsu. He has power in the hands. And if he can take a shot here against Mike Malott, he can really bite down on his mouthpiece and make this one competitive, in my opinion. Give me Gilbert Burns here to get it done in the main event. I know a lot of people are reasonably high on Mike Malott, but I understand that I think Burns has at least one or two more victories here inside the UFC. If he comes in shape, I think he could definitely make this one competitive. I don't necessarily trust Mike Malott at this point, and I think that he has all the skill sets here to be able to make this one competitive and obviously win as a rightful favorite. But I think it's going to be too much pressure in front of his home crowd. We've seen it happen to him before in that Neil Magny loss. He was having success. He gassed out. And I think here in a 5-round fight against Gilbert Burns, who has more 5-round experience, he can make this competitive and pull off the upset. Let's see who Carlos has got in this main event.
Okay, I'm going to have to take Mike Malott to get this one done. I think Burns is a beast. I think he's tough. I think he's durable. I think he can be dangerous still at times, but I think he's going to be dangerous early. But on the back end of his prime, pretty much. The reaction time is starting to go. The speed is starting to go a little bit as the fight goes. But, he can still hurt Mike Malott, and he can still pose a threat to finish him. And Malott's more of the technical striker of the two, where Burns relies on his power instead of the precision because, he'll swing those things like from his back pocket. But Mike Malott's just going to flick him out there and tap you, and those taps just seem to be a little harder, like you've seen in the fight. So it's like the more accurate the strike is sometimes the harder it's going to be. And you're winging those punches and you're less accurate. So you kind of got to give up one. And I think Burns can do that. I just think he relies on the power too much on the feet. Both are solid on the mat. Burns, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu resume kind of speaks for itself. Malott, he has one too, but not like Gilbert Burns, but I don't think it's going to be as soon as Burns gets him down, it's going to be a submission finish. I think Malott can hang with him anywhere on the ground he needs to. I just feel that, Burns has got to either hurt him before he gets him down or he's got to wear him down a little bit somehow, like his gas tank. Because Malott, I think, is just going to be the bigger guy in this. And I think he can, to be honest, I think he can get it done just with the striking. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of ground game in this one. I feel that it's going to stay on the feet. I feel Burns, is enjoying the stand-up wars that he's getting in, and I feel that that's also the reason as you get older you should rely on your grappling more. You should rely on your wrestling more. and because that requires striking does it requires a little bit more of youth and reaction time, you know. Whereas like your grappling, you can get them down, you can use technical takedowns, you know, to get them down, and you can use strategy to keep them where you need them to be, and you can work from there. But I think Burns is in love with getting in a little bit of a firefight. He does have exciting fights here and there. His wrestling is not always the best coming in, and Malott can impose himself. The size that he has, and along with the other skills and his patience in the striking. And you know, the only thing I feel is if Mike Malott gets a little overzealous, I think Burns can sting him and probably get him out of there. But I really don't see that happening. I see Malott coming in. He's going to be relaxed. He's going to be comfortable. And he's going to be looking to pick his shots, his counter shots. And he's going to force Burns to either shoot for takedowns, and that's where he's going to get the upper hand, or he's just going to force Burns to strike a little bit more outside of himself on the feet and try to land a big bomb. And I think in that exchange there, I think Malott can step back, use a little bit of patience, use a little bit of a tactical advantage, and just pick those openings up when Burns is swinging a little wild. So I'm going to go with Malott to get this one done.